Welcome to the second to last 8/2014 webinar series on preparing your presentation for 8/2014, how to create a presentation and a scientific poster. I would like to introduce Felipe Marquez, Program Officer at the International AIDS Society, who coordinates the abstract-driven part content on the conference program, and Sébastien Morin, Research Officer at the International AIDS Society, who manages the IS Industry Liaison Forum. To allow all the attendees to hear the presenters, please do not unmute yourself. Your questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation.
Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. So today my colleague Sebastian and I will guide you through good tips for your presentation at the conference. We will have a bit of logistic information, also something about the presentation style guide, and Sebastian will guide us through the structure of the presentation. And at the end of the webinar, if time allows, we will also have some Q&A. So as you can see, there's different types of presentations during the conference. In the pictures you see a session, but also the poster exhibition. And the AIDS/2014 program is composed of different types of sessions. Some of them are abstract-driven sessions, other ones are plenary sessions, the symposia, the bridging, the regional, but also sessions that take place at the Global Village, that are part of the Global Village program. So we will try to make the webinar as clear as possible in order to be able to cover all the session types. So if you have any questions that haven't been addressed, we can do it at the end. Some logistic information. So before the conference, it's good that you communicate with your session point person, the session co-chairs about your presentation, especially regarding how much time you have available for your presentation. What should it cover? What are the appropriate number of slides, if any, because some of you might only have an oral presentation. For example, if there's a special session lineup, if there will be a panel discussion, what is your order? Will you be the first speaker, the last one? And how are you managing the Q&A at the end of the session? Regarding your speaking time, it's important to note that a presentation timer will be available in the room, so the session co-chairs have received instructions to stop your presentation if your time has run out. So please make sure that when you're preparing your presentation, you have this also in mind. At some point, the session co-chairs might ask you to send them your slides, your PowerPoint presentation, your talking points, so that they can review the presentations for duplication and gaps to make sure that there are no duplication in terms of the presentations from the different speakers in the session. Another important aspect is also the conflict of interest, and authors as presenters are responsible for disclosing all potential or actual conflicts of interest that might cause bias. So we do ask that you add a slide to your presentation disclosing any conflict of interest at the time of the presentation for the benefits of the conference delegates. For more information, we have on the conference website, there is information regarding this. So when preparing your PowerPoint, you need to have in mind some technical requirements. First, the AIDS/2014 computers run on PowerPoint 2010, so please make sure that when you prepare your PowerPoint, you have this in mind. Also, the video formats, most of them are accepted, and for more guidelines, you also have them on the conference website, and you can see the link here. When it comes to movies and video files, if your presentation contains links to video files, you should bring them, not only your PowerPoint file, but also the video files to the Speaker Center. And we will talk a bit more about the Speaker Center in a few minutes. And please note that the Prezi is not supported since it must be converted and tested before. You also need to bring everything to the Speaker Center in advance. If you need more information, please contact us at the email address that you see on the slide. And the same for Macintosh, for keynote presentations. These are also not accepted, and you need to convert them and make sure that everything is running smoothly. So we need time for this. We need to test your presentation in advance. When you get to the conference, some information about the Speaker Center. So the Speaker Center is intended to support all speakers and co-chairs at the conference. It will be located on level 2, and you can see on the slide the working hours. You should check in at least 4 hours before the start of your session, and here you should upload your presentation or more than one in case you have it, and also check the consent form for publication. You should bring them on a USB key or a CD-ROM, since it's not possible to upload files directly on the session room. And on the Speaker Center, technicians will assist you to review your presentations, to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and to see that it's displaying well on the session room screens. There is also a rehearsal room at the Speaker Center where you can run through and practice your presentation prior to the session. So in case you're a bit nervous and really want to test it, you can come to the Speaker Center and ask for the rehearsal room. So if check-in at the Speaker Center is mandatory for all speakers, even if you don't have a PowerPoint presentation. If you're only making an oral presentation with no PowerPoint attached, you should also come to the Speaker Center. And I would like also to talk to you a bit about the conference online. And the goal is to provide virtual access to the conference for individuals that are unable to participate in person. So what we do is we're making every effort to distribute information that is presented at the conference free of charge to all of those that can't participate in person. And for this, we need to obtain your consent as speakers to publish your presentation material online. And this may be either your presentation slides or also the recordings when available, so that the public can stream or download the materials free of charge. Some sessions will be recorded, not all of them. And this is the reason why we really would like you to come to the Speaker Center. Even if you don't have a PowerPoint, please come and give us the consent to publish and share your presentation with everyone. So in addition to all the session types that we saw, we also have the poster exhibition. And it's not a session in itself, but it also has presenters. So some logistic information regarding the poster exhibition. It's located on the ground level within the exhibition, and it's open from Monday to Thursday. You will find more information on the timings for mounting and removing the posters on the conference website. And if you are an abstract presenter, you will also receive all this information by email. Each poster will be displayed for 1 day only, and the authors should stand by their posters to answer questions, to provide more information about their studies between the lunchtime on their assigned day of presentations. Just an important thing, the poster exhibitors are not requested to check in at the Speaker Center. And when it comes to late breaker posters, these are displayed for the duration of the conference. And all abstract presenters, late breaker poster presenters, receive this information also by email. So let's see a bit more about the presentation style when it comes to an oral presentation. PowerPoint is an excellent resource for presenters, and if you use it well, it can help you to organize and to communicate complex information in a clear and concise way. So pay attention, your PowerPoint slide will be seen in a large room, so you should make the layout simple and uncluttered, and you should not extend your text area to the very edges of the slide. When it comes to colors, the wrong text and background colors can make your presentation unreadable. So make sure that the text color has a good contrast with the background and that it doesn't distract your audience. As for text and font sizes, you should organize your thoughts. One thought per slide, and you should break your presentation into concise elements that could fit in a few lines per slide. So you should avoid many lines on each slide. And the font size should be something between 24 or 36. As far as animation and transitions, it can be very difficult to work with them during a live presentation, and they are often distracting for the viewers. So you should, for example, try to use more the bullet points in your slide and show all information at the same time. However, if you want to use them, please keep them simple. And some guidelines regarding your poster presentation. So a poster gives a very brief summary of a research study. It should have a clear message, a logic layout, and it should be easy to comprehend in a couple of minutes. So make sure that the specific sections, such as the background, the methods, the results, and the conclusions, are easy to locate on the poster. Supporting images, like graphs, tables, illustrations, can be very helpful and are very often necessary to display results. So try to find the right balance between the text and the visuals. Make sure that the images are easy to understand and are not overloaded with information. Make sure that your font size is large enough to be read from 1.5 meters away. So you should make your main headings big enough to be easy to locate. Make sure that there is enough contrast between the color and the poster background. And in terms of format, Adobe InDesign and Microsoft PowerPoint are recommended tools to create your poster. On the conference website, we have some guidelines and also a template which you don't have to use. It is not mandatory to use, but if you want, feel free to. And important information, the posters should be laid out in landscape style. The poster board is 120 centimeters high and 180 centimeters wide. So please make sure that your poster fits the surface. If you need more information, all the presentation guidelines and also the templates are available on the conference website. It is very difficult to give maybe all the information that you need here, and since we might have speakers from different session types attending the conference, we don't want to provide too many information just regarding one type of presentation. Since, for example, abstract speakers have a very specific guidelines. So if you have more questions, please contact us at the AIDS 2014 program inbox, and you can see the email there. And now I will leave you with my colleague Sebastian. Thank you.
Aspect of a presentation. I will now talk a bit about the structure of a presentation and its content, we'll go through this in a few slides. So the structure is really made out of a few items. Presentation is a story, whether it's an oral presentation or a poster. It's a story you want to tell about your study, even if it's in the option 1 or 2, more scientific research or observation or implementation program on which you report. So the first thing, of course, is the title. You want people to know what you're going to talk about. Second thing, authors and affiliations. Who made the study? Who wrote the story? The affiliations is what do they work? Who do they work for? Then the core of the presentation is really the 4 aspects that are highlighted. Introduction or background, you want to set the stage, methods and description of the study. You want people to understand what were your tools to reach the results and the lessons that you learned. And last, of course, the most important thing, conclusions you make out of your results and the next steps, which means what would be the follow-up. 2 things you want to make sure to have in your presentation are acknowledgements. Your unless you did that really on your own without funding and without any support, there will be acknowledgement. It's important to make them, especially for funding and references, especially for the background data that wasn't already available, or for example a method. If you don't go into too much detail and use the method that's already described somewhere else. The tools you're going to use to do that are text, either written or spoken. Most of the time, you're going to do much more spoken than written. You want to keep it very simple. The same for figures and tables. You want to use the minimum amount. Simplicity is really something you want to reach in the presentation. Now, a few specific aspects, starting with oral presentation. As Samara said, one idea per slide, and roughly one slide per minute. So if you have 10 minutes, don't go too much over 10 slides, otherwise you'll be running and the audience will have difficulty following. Title, authors, and affiliations, one slide, the first one. Introduction and background, at least one slide, but sometimes you want to put a bit more. It depends on the context of your study or your story. You want to make sure that people really understand. Method and description, keep it simple, just the minimum, one or a few slides. Results and lesson learned, depends on how much results you have. If you don't have so many, don't go too much into details. Keep it simple again. But if you have many and they are on different aspects of the project, then you might need a few slides. Conclusions and next steps, never more than 2 slides, ideally 1 slide. You want people, when they get out of the presentation, to be able to remember the 1 or 2 take-home messages that you want to deliver. Acknowledgement should be 1 slide, should be the last one. And references, you should place them where needed. So if it's a reference for method, then place it on the method slide. You can write it on the bottom of the slide. And sometimes it's useful to have additional slides. When you prepare a presentation, you will always end up in some slides that you thought you would use, and then you think, oh, I'm going to discard it. Well, don't discard it. Put it at the end. Leave 1 or 2 blank slides after your acknowledgement. And if there's a question sometimes about this topic, this aspect of your research that you didn't want to go into too much detail in your presentation, then you might take the slide and use it to answer. This is always useful. Anyway, when you present, you prepare such slides, they can be useful for other contexts later on, other presentation, and they make you well prepared for the topic. So even if you don't use these additional slides, just making them already a good thing. After a slide, of course, you want to keep it simple again, not too much text. Use graphs, use bullet points. The poster alone should really be self-explained. It means that someone who will visit your poster when you're not there can understand what it's talking about. There should be proper references, maybe with numbers in the text, and then a list at the end. Keep it short, just 5-6 references are enough, and I would say the maximum. You can print and distribute handouts. A good way to do this is to just print your poster without the background, with removing a few colors, making sure that it really prints well, so black and white. You might want to use colors, but it's not needed. Really, you want people to be able to bring back the poster home. And so you can just leave them in a plastic envelope under your poster with a pin, and so people, when they walk by, you can take one. It's always useful for follow-up. The poster should look like on the slide, more or less. This is based on the template that we prepared for 2014. There's a short link below. So a small part for introduction, a small part for method, the description of your study. Of course, you can move the sizes of these parts. The biggest part should be results, and there should be something about conclusions and next steps. If it's very complicated, you might want to use a graphic to show a model or something that you derive from your results. And again, as for any other thing, don't forget authors, affiliations, references, and acknowledgement. So now to go a bit more into the details of the different aspects. Title, authors, and affiliations. This for the titles will depend a little bit. So, for example, if you present a clinical study in that field, it's very much more systematic. The way people make the title representation, and so they might want to say, okay, what was studied, what was the outcome, where it was, when, and so on. In other fields, and from the field that I'm from, basic research, they're much more flexible with titles. So we want to keep them short, comprehensible to a broad audience, make them appealing so that people will stop by a poster if it's a poster. If it's a session, people will either come to the session for your presentation or for the session as a whole. So the title is not that critical. Yeah. So, but anyway, the title for you, I guess, is already defined. You made it in your abstract, so you should keep the same title. And this title should ideally define the scope of your study, or have a few of your results, especially if they are very exciting. For the authors, you should list them in the proper order, and this sometimes might differ in different fields, but the really vast majority of fields will have first author first. It means the first author is the person who did all the work, or most of the work, and that's again third, fourth, depends on how many authors you have, but the following authors are the ones who participated, but slightly less. And then at the end, you want to use the supervisor. So if there was one supervisor, let's say the head of the lab, then this will be the last author. If it was a collaboration with two groups, then the last two authors will be the supervisors of the different groups. If you present a study for which you're not the first author, and this can happen, of course, well, then it's good to underline or put a star next to your name so that people know that you're the one talking, you're not the first author, so they don't get confused. And you should include affiliations for authors, so the name of the institute, hospital, or group, or so on, the place where it was, so the city and the country. For the introduction or the background, you have to give enough data for people to understand what you will be talking about. Don't assume that people know everything. Many people will come from different fields, slightly different fields. You don't need to start from theory of evolution from Darwin or so far. But you have to give enough such that people who are from different fields can really follow. So that's the general context. So it's really the data that was out there before you start. At the stage when you start, you might want to put things that are newer, of course, if they are relevant. But if they are newer and contradict what you find or somehow, you can bring them later on. The introduction should really justify why you did that study. Again, simple graphics will help the audience to follow. And you can already consider taking the take-home message in the introduction, although in a very simplified way. So the idea of this is of course, it's not chronological, but the idea is really to make people interested in what we're going to talk about. Say, okay, we found that X does Y, and we're going to show you why. So that can be a very good way to attract the people and keep them around. For poster, I think it's decisive, otherwise the person will just go away if they didn't read the conclusion before talking to you. Method and description. Well, you want to give some details about the method you use, just enough such that people can understand the concept and really they can understand what the results mean, what they can mean and what they will mean when you present it. So don't go too far, not put too much information there. You might want to put references. For example, on the slide on the left that I showed, there's a graphic showing really basic setup that we use for an experiment when I was doing a postdoc. And there's a little line, very, very small at the bottom of the slide, which is a reference for where the method is described in much more detail. And so if you want to show a question, you can, don't put too many, depends on your audience. So the slide on the right was made for a conference in biophysics. Of course, people would use to think on equations, and they were useful for the follow-up. But don't put anything that's not necessary. The results and lesson learned. You first present this in the order that makes sense to understand the conclusion. And it's not necessarily in the order that you made the experiments or the observation. Sometimes it happens that it's not in the same order. So what should prevail is really the logical approach. Again, small, simple graphics of the concept. If you use graphics like the ones on the slide below, make sure that the axes are obvious for people who will be attending your conference. Don't put just graphs without access names. It's always confusing. Even if you're in a related field, you will be lost, and you will stop. Listening to the people. The person will stop listening to you, and they will get lost. So for the graphics, it's really important to keep them simple and large enough. In this slide that I give as an example, it's really a limit-based. It wasn't a big conference, so people would still see well, but don't put too many graphics in the same slide. Sometimes they will get too small. People have difficulty following, and they get stuck in your presentation. You can present the results alone without really going into much more detail about the relations together and with the other results in the background data. Or you can discuss the results at the same time. Say, so the results show that X plus Y, and this is making sense, for example, with what Smith and colleagues showed last year and so on. So there are two different approaches, and it depends on the field, and it's up to you. Conclusions and next steps. Well, you have to summarize the key findings. If your presentation was very short, you might not need this, but if it was a bit longer, even 15 minutes, you want to summarize what you presented before discussing the altogether significance. And then you want to show one or two or just a few take-home messages for the conclusions. If it's something mechanistic that you can show in a graphic, it's always useful to put a graphic because that way people can visually understand what you mean. Sometimes words can lead to confusion. In the conclusion part, you can do it just before, just after, but it's around the conclusion part is the time when you want also to highlight what were the problems or contradictions with other data, the flaws in your research, the limitations of your data, before going to say about the next steps, because the next steps will either address these flaws or contradictions or go beyond if they want to just irrelevant. The take-home message, just make sure that if you can, it's always good to say it several times when you have results. If everything goes in the same direction, you can already start from your first result. Say, oh, this leads to the following conclusion, maybe, and you're going to show it if there are other results from other experiments or other observations going in the same direction. Then you build up the take-home message that people will remember. Acknowledgements, very simple. You have to name the person who's involved with working on this project. There are organizations. Sometimes just put logos. For example, on this slide, I placed the logo of the university where I was, and then for the funding sources, I placed the logo of Excel, Charm, Window, and in this case. And you can always also name collaborating groups. Don't put like 50 names on the slide. It's never useful. And you probably will collaborate with that many people. So just put the key people. If the group were built in general and there was one or two contact persons, then just name these contact persons and the name of the group. So just to wrap up, two more slides, which are taken from Computational Biology, the journal, an open access journal, from the PLOS series, and they made a series of articles, short articles about 10 simple rules for something. And there are rules, and then one or two paragraphs explaining what they mean. I invite you to look at them. There's a link there at the reference. So I just go through the simple rules for making good overall presentations now. Let's talk to the audience. This means you should look at the people as much as possible if you can. Don't look at the slides and see back to the people all the time. It's not very interesting. Less is more. That means keep it simple. Don't put making too many information, especially when it's needed. It's more or less having a blue tree on the top when you have something to say. Make the thing more the take-home message persistent. That's what I was saying before. Be logical, not necessarily chronological. Treat the floor as a stage so you can walk around, you can show your slides. You want people to stay interested, and you want to look at them. Sometimes you look at them and you will see on a few faces that some people don't follow you, so you might want to slow down or something. You want to practice and time your presentation. That's really important. Really important. Practice and practice over and over. And time your presentation. If you miss time in an oral presentation, nobody will extend your time. You will just be asked to go to conclusion straight away, and you will miss your goal with what's exactly what. So you should be on time. There's no exception to that. Use visuals sparingly but effectively. So just the necessary figures and keep them simple. Sorry. Review audio and video of your presentations. I've never done this in, ever, but I think it's probably very good, a very good thing. One alternative to doing that is to ask people to be present when you practice, colleagues, friends, and do it once or twice and get them their feedback. Provide appropriate acknowledgement, so that the just want to thank people help you. Now for the 10 simple rules for a good poster presentation, the same series from Plus. First, you want to define the purpose. So why do you do that for? So you want to show your results, what's your audience also. You want to be able to tell your work in 10 seconds. That means that someone passes by and says, okay, can you tell me a bit about your work? So in 10 or 30 seconds, let's say, you're able to really attract the person, and then you can discuss in more detail. Generally, a full poster presentation should be 3 to 6 minutes, roughly. Often it's 5 if there's a contest or some evaluation. The poster the title is important, as I said before. You want people to stop by. Poster acceptance means nothing. So if you accepted, for example, your poster at the conference, doesn't mean that your poster was peer reviewed and stamped like an approval from the conference. It doesn't mean that we think it's interesting. We're gonna see the results. And it's not the end; it's the start. Most rules for writing good paper apply to posters, so you want to use good English. You want to make sure that the graphics are high resolution, everything is neat, and it's logical. And good obvious sections, such that someone can walk by and just have a look at the conclusion, and if they are interested, they can look at the rest. That's often what people will look at: posters first, conclusions below, the background. So good posters have unique features, so this means that it's more or less the same as just before. They should be neat, they should be simple, attractive. Layout and format are critical, as I said before, so these are very similar comments. You might want to read the article. The content is important, but keep it concise, so not too much text, and make sure that you put only the necessary, but that is enough for someone to understand what you're talking about, even if you're not there to say. A poster should have your personality. This means that you should make it, and you should really be comfortable with its content. So when you present it, it will be obvious that the other things you present make sense to you, so you will be a better presenter. And last thing, very important, the impact of the poster happens during your presentation, but also after. So that's why it's always good to have them out. And if someone talks to you and asks a question, take their name, write down the questions, and so you can maybe follow up afterwards this might be a future collaborator. And the same thing if you go and visit a poster from someone else and you were interested, write down what you saw, because after the conference you won't remember because there are the posters. So that's it for the structure of the presentation.
So to ask your questions, you can unmute yourself or also raise your hand, and we'll give you the stage. We'll open the stage, or you can also use the chat if you want. I would also underline that this presentation and also the recording will be posted on the webinar webpage in a couple of days, so you can listen to it again and study a little bit the presentation as well as and sharing it with your colleagues as well. So any questions for Sebastian or Felipe? I don't see anyone raising hands or I see someone writing. So the abstract oral presentation is the traditional oral presentation. Just want that clarification. Felipe, I think it's for you.
Well, when it comes to oral presentations, we can have either an abstract presentation or an invited talk in a symposium or a plenary. So I'm not sure if you're a speaker and if you're an abstract presenter, is that it?
Can you repeat the question?
The person that made the question is an abstract presenter. Okay, so for oral presentations, when it comes to abstracts, we have two types. I didn't run very through that during the webinar because it may be a bit overwhelming for someone that is not presenting an abstract. So you can either present your abstract at an oral abstract session or at a poster discussion sessions. When it comes to the oral abstract sessions, usually you have 10 minutes for your presentations and a 5-minute Q&A follows immediately your presentation. If you're doing a poster discussion session, you will have to bring a paper poster, which will be displayed for the duration of the conference from Monday to Thursday, but you will also have a 5-minute presentation in a session. So for this one, the same rules that Sebastian just explained you more or less follow. The only thing is that you have a more limited time duration. So your presentation is much smaller. The sessions have a bigger time for a moderated discussion at the end, once everyone has presented their abstract. And you will also have the paper poster, which will be outside.
Rex, you are next.
Yes. I wanted to ask, you not mentioned anything about the e-poster, where there is a deadline for 15th of June. Is there, like, what is the implications of the e-poster? I was able to understand that the e-poster will enter the conference program or the whole conference package and not the original hard copy. Can you please clarify that?
Yes, I can answer that, Rex. It's a very good question. So in addition to the paper poster, we also ask abstract presenters to prepare an electronic poster. It's not mandatory, you can do it if you want. And the e-posters are published on the abstract USB memory stick, and they will also be available on the programmatic lens, the conference website. And you can either choose to upload your regular poster, the one that you're presenting in paper, or you can prepare something specifically like a more detailed PowerPoint presentation. And there is no limits here in terms of number of slides or anything, so you can put as much information as you want. And this is something in addition. It's not mandatory, speakers can do it or not, but it's a very good resource. And for example, for people that were not able to attend the conference, they find it very useful, especially for posters presented at the poster exhibition.
Thank you.
Sebastian?
Yes.
I have a person asking from the chat to go back to the slide regarding presenters presenting on behalf of the authors. So I think I'm on the right slide. If you can please explain it again a little bit.
Okay, so normally the first author is the person who made most of the work. And then the second or third author would be the one who helped and were also to study. Sometimes there could be two equal first authors, and this happens in papers, for example, and they are labeled as so. If you're going to present a study and you are not the one who made most of the work, you made a substantial part of it, but not all of it, you might want to keep the same order on the authors, but label your name with either underline or a star, so that people know that who you are. Because otherwise, people would assume you're the first one, because the most general thing that the first author presents. Of course, sometimes what people do, they change the order of authors, such that the first one is always the one to present. I think it depends on the field slightly, but the most general way is to keep the same order of the work and just underline the name. Does it help?
I think it did, Sebastian. Thank you. Any other question? So I don't think there are any other questions. So I'm taking a couple of minutes of your time to promote the last AIDS 2014 webinar, which is called Navigating the Conference. And the aim of this webinar is to share with you some tips on surviving the conference and give you the very last updates to better prepare your attendance to the conference and arriving safe and sane in Melbourne. It will be on July the 10th at 7 a.m. GMT, and on the presentation that you will be able to download from the webpage, you will have the link to register. I would also like to thank Philippa and Sebastian for their presentations, and thank to all of you for joining us today. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.